The incredible story of a 12-year-old girl and her father. After a man's wife died, leaving him a widower, you'll be shocked to discover what his daughter did. It's a story of struggle, compassion, and a sudden turn of events. You won't believe what happened. Watch the video until the end to know the entire story and, if you like it, leave a like. And if you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe and click the bell icon. Let's begin. Lucia was a 12-year-old girl who lived with her father and older brother in a modest 3-story house on the outskirts of Lima, Peru. Her mother had died suddenly a year earlier, at the age of 35. She was the pillar of the family, the woman took care of the house and the family, and her sudden death had left an enormous void. Lucia's father was only 27 years old when he lost his wife. So young, he found himself alone, trying to do his best to take care of his 2 children. The grief over losing his wife was immense, but the weight of daily and financial responsibilities was even heavier. The company Lucia's mother worked for gave them only 7,000 sols, about $2,000, a sum that didn't last long. And, unfortunately, no relative or acquaintance offered help. They say that in times of difficulty even those close to you can turn their backs. And that's exactly what happened. Lucia's family, once surrounded by friends and relatives, found itself completely alone. Everyone continued with their own lives, ignoring how they were really doing. Lucia's father, who had always been an affectionate and present husband, had to reinvent himself in a new and complex role. He stayed home for quite some time, looking for solutions, while the money ran out. As the months passed, the economic pressure became unbearable. They could no longer cover basic expenses, and food began to run out. Lucia's father sold everything they could afford to sell: furniture, appliances, even the old scooter. But after 10 months, the money was completely gone. At that point, he was forced to make a difficult decision: leave the house during the day to work and try to support his children. The first job he found was as a night watchman in a factory. The pay was meager, but it was a start. Then he managed to find 2 small part-time jobs, cleaning in a workshop and porter work in a market. With 3 jobs, he earned about 1,200 sols a month, barely enough to survive. Yet, despite all those efforts, life remained very hard. Bills, rent, medicine, school, every day there was something to pay. Half the earnings were only used to keep Lucia and her brother in school and buy them the bare minimum. Lucia, for her part, tried to study hard. But hunger and stress were beginning to weigh on her. Sometimes she went 2 whole days without eating a real meal. Her stomach growled, and she often felt tired and confused. She settled for drinking water so she wouldn't completely collapse. In the afternoon she always went to the neighborhood library, a small building with few shelves but much calm. It was there that she sought refuge to do her homework. The librarian, Señora Ramirez, a kind woman in her 50s with always fogged glasses, had noticed that Lucia arrived paler every day. One day, while Lucia was bent over her notebook, the pen slipped from her hand. Her eyes closed slowly. Her head lowered. Señora Ramirez immediately noticed something was wrong. She approached discreetly, kneeling beside her, and said in a sweet tone, "Lucia, are you okay? Do you feel sick, Hajita?" Lucia opened her eyes with difficulty and whispered, "Yes, I'm fine, just a bit tired." But the librarian wasn't fooled. She knew that look. "Don't lie to me, sweetheart. How long has it been since you ate properly?" Lucia, with tears in her eyes, lowered her gaze. "You don't seem well." Lucia hesitated, but after a moment she lowered her gaze and admitted quietly, "We don't have food at home. We haven't eaten for 2 days. I don't feel well." Señora Ramirez's heart broke hearing those words. She could see how much Lucia was suffering, and the thought that such a sweet girl was going through such torment struck her deeply. Without hesitating a second, she stood up and said, "Wait here for me, Querida." She left the reading room and returned a few minutes later with a cup of hot oatmeal and a ripe banana. "Here, eat. Your body needs energy." Lucia hesitated at first, but then took the spoon with trembling hands. As soon as she tasted the first bite, she felt a familiar warmth go through her stomach. Drinking the oatmeal and biting into the banana, her head cleared and the darkness that enveloped her seemed to lift. For the first time in days, she felt a bit of peace. The librarian watched her with shiny eyes, but a smile lit up her face. "How do you feel now, Lucia?" The girl nodded quietly, with eyes full of gratitude. "I'm better, Senora, thank you so much." "Good. But this isn't a solution, it's just a small step. After you finish your homework, come with me. We're going to get something for your house." Lucia didn't know what to say. She felt confused, embarrassed, but also safe. That evening, after library hours, Señora Ramirez took Lucia with her. They didn't have a car, so they took a moto-taxi to the local market. Calmly and carefully, the librarian bought bags of rice, black beans, sugar, flour, powdered milk, oil, and even some fresh fruits and vegetables. But she didn't stop there. She asked the deli vendor to prepare some vacuum-sealed packages, to last as long as possible. Then they headed to Lucia's house, loaded with bags and with full hearts. When they arrived, Lucia's father wasn't home yet. He worked late as a guard at a construction depot, often returning only late at night. Señora Ramirez helped Lucia arrange everything in the kitchen. The pantry, which until a few hours before was practically empty, was now full of food. Then she turned to the girl and said in a firm but kind tone, "You don't have to worry anymore, Hajita. From now on, I'll make sure you and your brother have what you need. Every month I'll bring you groceries. You just have to study. The rest, leave it to me." Lucia felt overwhelmed. Her heart beat hard, not from fear, but from gratitude. "Thank you. I don't know what to say." The librarian stroked her hair. "You don't have to say anything. But promise me one thing, never give up studying. Knowledge is your weapon to change all this." Señora Ramirez's support didn't stop at that one time. Every month, without ever missing, she brought supplies to Lucia's house. The father, initially incredulous, was deeply touched by that woman's generosity. He tried several times to offer her something in return, but she always responded with a smile, "Only one thing, that your children never abandon school." Despite her modest librarian's salary, Señora Ramirez never failed to provide her help. And when she learned that the family could no longer pay school fees, she spoke with the school administration and got the debt cancelled. One evening, Lucia's father came home and saw the kitchen full of supplies. He froze at the doorway, incredulous. "But, where did all this come from?" Lucia smiled at him. "It was Señora Ramirez. She's helping us. Every month she brings us what we need. She also had the school fees cancelled. We don't have to worry anymore." The father covered his face with his hands. For a moment he remained silent, then said in a low voice, "God bless her. I never would have thought that a stranger could do so much for us." From that day on, the librarian became more than a friend to them. She was like an aunt, a silent protector, a constant light in a time of darkness. And for Lucia, she was much more. She was the first person, after her mother, to make her feel important, seen, loved. "You and your family are like family to me," Señora Ramirez said one day, looking at Lucia with sincere affection. While Lucia's father worked hard to get by, the librarian's regular support ensured that food was never missing at home. Over time, that man began to sleep a little more peacefully, knowing that someone was watching over his children when he couldn't. Lucia, finally feeling safe, began dedicating herself to her studies with new determination. Every morning she woke up early to help her younger brother, then ran to school and in the afternoon took refuge in the library, where Señora Ramirez always waited for her with a smile and a warm cup of mate. That unexpected kindness had ignited a spark in her. Lucia began to dream of a different future, one in which she could, one day, reciprocate that selfless love. Despite fatigue and responsibilities, her academic performance constantly improved. Teachers began to notice that change. The shy and exhausted girl of the past had become an attentive, enthusiastic student full of hope. But Senora Ramirez's support went far beyond food or school materials. She had instilled in her the conviction that, even when everything seems lost, education remains a light in the darkness. Lucia took those words to heart. She committed herself to every subject, participated in competitions, won local scholarships. And every time she achieved a small success, she ran to tell about it in the library. As the years passed, the librarian's impact on Lucia's life became increasingly evident. She wasn't just a kind figure, but a mentor, a guide who had helped her find her way. Lucia had transformed. She was no longer a fragile and hungry girl, but a determined young woman who knew where she wanted to go. One day, during a normal day at the library, she received a letter. It was from the Pontifical Catholic University of Peru. Trembling, she opened it, and burst into tears. She had obtained a full scholarship to attend the engineering program. When she told her father the news, he hugged her tight, sobbing with happiness. Senora Ramirez also cried, holding her hand. "I knew it," she said. "I knew you would make it." But the surprises weren't over. A few months later, Lucia received another communication. She had been selected for an international program that would allow her to spend 2 years in Europe, at a prestigious partner university, with room, board and travel entirely funded. It was like living a dream. Lucia never would have imagined that, from that small Lima neighborhood, one day she could take a plane to study abroad. Yet, that day arrived. On the day of departure, her father and brother were with her at the airport. They hugged for a long time. "Do what you have to do, Hijita," her father told her with a trembling voice. "But never forget where you come from." Lucia boarded the plane with a mixture of emotion and melancholy. Looking out the window as the plane lifted off, she thought about the mother who was no longer there, the father who had given everything, and that extraordinary woman who had supported her in the darkest moments. In the new country, she adapted quickly. The university was modern, welcoming, full of students from all over the world. Lucia studied with passion, made new friends and, with the small savings from her scholarship, began sending money home every month. She wrote to her father, asking him to leave his night watchman job. "Now I'll take care of it, Papa. It's your turn to rest." Over time, she also found a part-time job on campus, which allowed her to increase the financial help to home. Every time she received her salary, her first thought was always for her family. And, of course, every month she wrote a long letter also to Senora Ramirez, telling her about every milestone, every exam passed, every dream that was beginning to take shape. Lucia knew that all this wouldn't have been possible without that outstretched hand in a desperate moment. And she swore to herself that, one day, she would return that gift to someone else. Lucia's hard work finally paid off and she settled into her new life in Europe. Her father, who had once struggled to feed his children, now lived with dignity and serenity. He used the money Lucia sent him to fix up the house. He had the walls painted, bought new furniture and transformed the old dwelling into a welcoming place full of warmth. The family, once marked by anguish and sacrifices, was now full of hope and future. Even the relatives who in the past had disappeared, those who hadn't lifted a finger in difficult times, began showing up. They arrived with broad smiles and offers of help, as if they had always been present. Lucia, raised in poverty but rich in values, bore no grudge. She greeted them politely, but inside she couldn't ignore how quickly people changed when the wind turned in their favor. Meanwhile, Lucia's younger brother also completed his studies with excellent results, inspired by his sister's extraordinary journey. Their family finally looked ahead, with enthusiasm and gratitude. Lucia's success had become an example for everyone in the neighborhood, living proof that, with dedication and the right help, even those born with little can achieve great goals. As the years passed, Lucia's commitment and talent led her to brilliantly complete her university studies. Shortly after, she received a job offer from a prestigious engineering company in Spain, with a contract that guaranteed her a salary she as a girl wouldn't have even dared to dream of. Lucia was over the moon. Finally she could return, at least in part, everything her family had done for her. Before leaving, she went to buy gifts for her father and for Señora Ramirez, a new watch for him and a leather bag with engravings for the librarian. She wanted to tell them, without words, how much they meant to her. On the day of departure, her father was with her at the airport. He hugged her tight, kissed her forehead and, with shiny eyes, said, "You did everything I could never have done. And I couldn't be prouder of you." When Lucia arrived in Madrid and sat for the first time at her engineer's desk, with her name written on the nameplate, she couldn't help but think of Señora Ramirez. She was the first to believe in her, to nourish her, literally and spiritually, when no one else did. She knew she had to find her and thank her, as she deserved. She then organized a trip to Lima. As soon as she arrived, with a bag full of gifts, she headed to the small neighborhood library. But there they told her that Señora Ramirez had retired the year before. Determined, Lucia asked for information and managed to get her address. When she arrived at the librarian's house, she found herself in front of a visibly aged woman, but with the same affectionate look as before. Lucia hugged her tight, moved. "Señora, everything I have now, is thanks to you." The librarian, moved, replied with a broken voice, "No, sweetheart. I only helped you not to give up. Everything else you did yourself." Lucia noticed that Señora Ramirez's house was modest, and that the elderly lady still supported herself with some private literature lessons. Without thinking twice, Lucia arranged for her to have medical assistance, a supplementary pension and regularly sent her a monthly sum. Every week a package arrived with food, books and affectionate letters. One day, Lucia told her, "Now it's my turn, Señora. You gave me the chance to live, and I want to do the same for you." Meanwhile, Lucia had met the librarian's grandson, a brilliant young teacher named Camille. They had met in the library years before, and over time a special bond had formed between them. Her father immediately struck up a friendship with Camille and with Señora Ramirez's family. It was Lucia's father who proposed that Camille and Lucia get married. The librarian, seeing how much love, respect and care there was between the two, accepted with joy. That gesture closed a circle. The woman who had once saved a child from hunger and despair, now became an integral part of her family. Lucia never forgot the gesture that had changed her life. She knew that kindness, even the simplest kind, could transform into something eternal. From that day forward, Lucia decided to dedicate part of her time and resources to helping girls in difficulty, offering scholarships, psychological support and mentoring programs. She did it not out of obligation, but to honor the living memory of the purest gesture she had ever received. Thus, the cycle of love, generosity, and hope continued. And other young Lucias, somewhere in the world, began to dream, thanks to someone who, like Señora Ramirez, had believed in them. Friends, for today the video ends here. This was our story. Write in the comments what you think. And if it inspired you, leave a like and share. Kindness, as you've seen, can truly change the world.